Hello everyone, welcome to the Africam show. It's wonderful to be with all of you as usual. I must say the cams, I went across them a little bit earlier. Things are pretty quiet, pretty snoozy, much like this hippo here at Kwamaratan, just chilling. Oh, we have a nice dove on the other side too. Ringneck dove or turtleneck dove. A typical safari setting. Now, in most of the areas, it's going to be pretty warm, so we're not going to see too much movement. Well, I mean, there's a couple things that affect that. One, it's the rainy season, so animals don't necessarily have to come to water holes to have a drink. They can pretty much drink in anywhere or any area that's filled up with water. But just as I'm trying to justify why our cams are quiet, I remind myself that you never know what's going to happen. So while I ask you to keep your questions ready, because of course we are live and interactive, so you can send through questions and comments. If it remains nice and quiet like this, then please think about some questions that you'd like to ask. Maybe there's some things that have been bugging you that we haven't really had the opportunity to talk about. It doesn't have to be related to what we're seeing. And we can keep those in stock if things remain quiet. But for now, we have a lovely hippo and we have some hellos. Kauru, you say hi, Trishala. Hi, Kauru. Thank you for joining us. Bridget McKinney is on board as well. You say this hippo has been lying here for a while. Yep, even when we were looking at the cams just before the show started, this hippo was chilling. He's been moving around, though, in the water, and looks very relaxed, I must say. Kind of rolling onto his sides, getting his back nice and wet, too. And dare I say, he almost looks like he's smiling. So very, very relaxed. Timber Grace, you say good morning from Chile, Minnesota. You've got a Diet Coke this morning. Oh my goodness. Do you know Bob from Kalamazoo, Timber Grace? Hopefully Bob will come on board as well, and then you can share a Diet Coke while you watch the Africam show. For me, I've got some green tea to keep me company during the show today. Bridget McKinney, you say you're an overnight worker, so apple juice on hand. Is that code, Bridget McKinney? You can let us know. We're all family. Anyway, I know that we're seeing an animal relaxing at the moment, but there's something that I like very much about an animal, or seeing an animal that's just chilling, because so often the clips that we see on the internet, or if we go out on safari, particularly if you are going out as a guest on safari, you're kind of just moving from one bit of action to another bit of action. And the same goes if you're, looking at animal clips online or on social media. You're just kind of going from action to action. And even though animals do spend a lot of time relaxing, we don't get to see it very much because we keep moving about. And I guess that's one of the things that I love about having static cams, is that you can chill with an animal too if you want to. Oh, just as the camera moved towards the hippo, there was a little bit of a side eye there. Very cute. But for me, watching an animal relax, and we are lucky enough that we can do that with the cams, but also when I'm in a reserve, because I don't take guests, and we have the opportunity to sit with an animal for sometimes many hours, you get to watch them relax. And it makes me feel like they feel particularly safe and secure, and so much so that they can just chill. But don't be fooled. Even if they are chilling and it looks like they are very asleep, they will be able to react to anything they suspect is threatening in an instant. Now that we're nice and close to this hippo's face, or its head, you can see the whiskers on its snout as it's tilting over. Oh, you are just very cute, aren't you? I believe that was a response to my sentiments there. April Owl, you say hi everyone from sunny Connecticut. Oh, excuse me. And your cherry iced tea. Nice. And you're waiting for the show to begin. Well, it began already. And we have a nice chilling hippo. Oh, Bob's here! Bob from Kalamazoo. You say good day, Trish. Bob, I must tell you, Timber Grace is enjoying the show with a Diet Coke. Could you believe it? Casper's third ghost, you say good morning, afternoon from Milwaukee. Hot cinnamon tea today. Nice. Very, very nice. Hot cinnamon tea sounds delightful. I'm quite happy with my green tea though, for now. And yes, I actually enjoy it. If any of you were questioning that. Like the Hippo. Oh, Pat. Hi, Pat. You say hi from South Florida. You've got some Cuban coffee here. Also sounds great. Is there something or many things much more pleasurable than having a nice drink and watching wildlife? I'm not sure that there is. Alright, this hippo is very snoozy. How about we see if we can head over to Mabula and check on those Blacksmith lapwing eggs. See if anything's been happening, if anything's changed. Oh, there we go. Right at the water's edge, there's also a terrapin. Top right-hand corner of your screen there, looking around. Don't come here, terrapin. Oh, this is lovely. So, I can't remember how many eggs we saw last time. I feel like I want to say 3, maybe 2, but apparently there's just 1 left. Not unexpected. Can you hear that woodland kingfisher? Very loud in the background. Okay. 2. Kirst, do you mean there were 2 eggs before and now there's 1? I think you said there was 1 egg now. I mean, this is something that Blacksmith lapwings have to put up with constantly. Their eggs are, I think, they're prized possessions, really, not just for the lapwings. So the lapwings, that's a little package of their future, their genetics. But also for everybody else in the bush, even those that are usually just herbivores, they see a nice nutritional egg lying about, they're going to take it. But the biggest trouble that lapwings are going to have are from things like genets and civets. As we well know, if you've been watching the different cameras for a long time, you'll know that we have had many, many lapwing families suffer from civets. So the fact that 1 egg is gone is not surprising, but that doesn't necessarily lead me to think that it is a civet or a genet or even a water monitor. I would imagine if it were one of those animals that specifically look for eggs, a mongoose is another one that love eggs, I would think that they would go back and get as many as they can, or eat it there and get both. So maybe, oh, I guess they could have, and then a parent came and mobbed them. But it could also be, if you look how close they are to the water's edge, maybe the nest got disturbed. It also wouldn't be totally unusual for some of the eggs to be trampled on. Unfortunately, Blacksmith lapwings tend to nest at the edge of waterholes, and we know that waterholes get really busy with large herbivores that aren't necessarily looking at the ground when they come to drink. Last time we were looking at the eggs as well, last week, you would have seen that they're so cryptically colored that it would be hard to see. I remember going for a bushwalk, or I can't remember when it was, a couple of years back. It was just a couple hours spent walking in the bush looking for smaller things to talk about, and it wasn't a Blacksmith lapwing, it was one of the others. I think it might have been a Senegal lapwing. I walked by, I had the eggs pointed out to me, and it took me about 5 seconds. Someone is pointing at the eggs. It took me about 5 seconds to actually, for the image to actually form. That's how well camouflaged those eggs are. Anyway, so 2 before, now there's 1. Maybe the second one is still there, hidden. You can see it's really muddy, so we'll just have to maybe wait for it to get up like we did last week. And then make a little determination. I'm loving the color of the grass everywhere at the moment. It's just stunning. Oh, we're back up at Old Donyo. Nice, we've got some yellow baboons. Not the clearest. Let's see if it sorts itself out. Speaking of the grass, though, I was just mentioning how it's beautifully green all over the place now. The bush really comes alive at this time of year. Kaoru, you're talking about the lapwings. You say the lapwing nest is flooded. Hopefully it's not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem unless the water stays high for longer than just a couple moments. But yeah, because at the same time, those eggs could float if the water is enough. And then also it could potentially carry an egg away. But what we saw now, that kind of flooding, which is just kind of muddiness, that shouldn't be a problem at all. Stitcher, hi Stitcher, you say coffee for me here in the American Midwest. Nice. Lots and lots of people enjoying the Africam show with coffee. It's like a tradition. Ooh, Allison, what a question. I love it. I love it. You say, this matter of relaxing animals. I wonder if animals have a concept of time. Sure, they know morning and nighttime, but other than that, I wonder often if an animal like this hippo actually knows she has been wallowing there for 8 hours or whatever. What do I think? You say hello, smiling and waving. Hello, smiling and waving back at you. I think that's an excellent question, and I love that you've thought about this. And this is the thing that I love about spending time in wildlife, extended time, because you start to think about things outside of just their biology. And when it comes to the passing of time, it's an incredibly interesting thing, because the perception of time can also be related to the size of an animal. So how much processing is happening in 1 minute or 1 second compared to another animal. So for example, animals that are small tend to have higher heart rates or heartbeats, and then they also tend to process, I guess the best way I can say this is like frames per second. Theirs seems to be higher than those of larger animals. And the more that they're taking in per second, they also tend to have shorter lifespans. The more they're taking in per second makes their perception of 1 minute appear longer than a larger animal that's taking in less per second. I'm oversimplifying here, but basically there's this correlation between size and perception of time. And I bring that up because for this hippo, or the hippo we're watching, or even these baboons that we're looking at right now, even if their perception is different, could they know that time is passing at a particular rate? And I think that's the crux of it. And I don't think so. Because the only reason we know, look at this. Give me the baby. The only reason we know that time is passing at a particular rate is because we have a mechanism to count it. But for other animals, and like you said, Alison, you were talking about, yes, this is the morning, this is the evening, because sunset, sunrise. If this hippo that we're watching, or these baboons, sat at the waterhole from sunrise to sunset, I think that they would know that a large amount of time has passed. They won't know that in language, of course, or in concept, but there would be like an intuitive feeling that a large portion of the day was spent at a waterhole. And I say that because one, time is constantly passing, and I think that because time has existed for as long as anything has existed, anything, I'm using the word existed again, anything that exists, because time has always been there, must be able to perceive it. But apart from that, if you're an animal and you spend the majority of your time foraging or drinking water or trying to protect yourself, you know roughly how much time these baboons spend foraging here, how much time they spend foraging up in the hills or down on the other side of the camp. And they'll tend to move on in pretty routine rates, or at pretty routine rates. So imagine that at one time they spend the whole day at the waterhole from sunrise to sunset because, I don't know, resources are really good. Look at the right of the image there. This impala just went and almost touched the nose of the baboon. You are curious, or just trying to get them out of the way. Anyway, the crux of it is that if how much time they spend in a spot can actually affect their foraging behaviors, maybe even their mating behaviors. But it can affect their behaviors in general because it may mean that there's abundant resources here, and they can know that by the fact that they've spent sunrise to sunset there. In a way, everything that we're talking about is pretty philosophical because we can never really know those answers. But I love these discussions because it allows me to think as well. So thank you very much, Alison. The problem now, Alison, is that you've put this in my head, and as we're watching the cameras, I'm going to have random thoughts about time, animals, and time perception, and it's going to be your fault. Oh, Mindy Tillapal, this is an interesting question. You say, hey Trish, I've been told that when whales sleep, they shut down parts of their brains. Is that true of all animals? No, it's not true of all animals. It's called hemispherical sleep. And it's something that happens in animals that need to consciously hold their breath in order to sleep. Oh, we've got a little... There we go. Back on the impalas. So because something that's conscious needs to happen while whales sleep, that is, they need to be conscious of their breath, and they need to be awake to some extent in order to go back up to the surface to breathe. Oh, there we go. We had a little bit of a glitch there, Donio, but we're back now at Kwamaratan, where our hippo, who has kicked off so much of our philosophical discussions this afternoon, is around. Hopefully we'll be able to swing back to the hippo soon. There we go, on our way back. Almost. Oh, people. Don't get to see them often on the cams. But Mindy, that hemispherical sleep, means that one part of the brain can be asleep while the other is awake. So there's still some conscious function that can happen, but the brain is, or part of the brain is technically resting. So we usually see that in marine mammals, but chameleons can also do that. They're able to have one half of the brain sleep while the other is still semi-conscious. Remember, it's not like fully awake conscious, it just means they're able to react and able to take cues from their body quicker, because obviously the whale is going to know once levels of carbon dioxide go up, the whale is going to want to feel the urge to breathe, but it's about responding to it timeously, which is where the brain comes in. All right, we're back on the hippo. Oh, Bridget McKenney, yes, I'm sorry, we had to go away from Maldonado. It wasn't playing ball very much, but you're right, yes, that is a foam nest frog nest in the center. I also saw that, it caught my eye. If we're able to go back, we can chat about that as well. Amber Co, hello, thank you for jumping on board. You say good day to all. You're enjoying the sights and sounds with your coffee. Nice. In fact, I'm going to take a sip of my green tea. Got some white-faced whistling ducks in the distance there. Oh well, on the edge there as well. This hippo just looks like how I want to spend the December. Oh, I'd love to know how all of you are spending your Decembers. Whether you're going to get time off. There's something quite nice for, I suppose for us, here in the Southern Hemisphere. December is a time where it's summer and it's beautiful and warm, and most parts of this country at least are experiencing rainfall, so it feels humid and quite tropical. For me, the holiday season or the festive period has always been associated with the beach and spending time in the nice warmth. But of course, a lot of you are in the Northern Hemisphere, which means that you probably don't have the same kind of idea of the festive period as I do. Zygo, you say I'm putting my feet in Albert Einstein's shoes. I am putting my feet in the shoes of all humans. Zygote. I think one of the most beautiful things about being a human is that we are able to observe, challenge, think about, conceptualize things that are happening outside of us, like time, like meaning, like consciousness. We're able to investigate those things. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about being a human being, is that we can spend time doing that. It's also a privilege to be able to have the time to think about those things, because for the majority of animals, but also for lots of people in the world, life gets so busy, stressful, full of things that we need to do to survive, that we don't get the opportunity to engage in one of the things that I think is the most beautifully human thing to be able to do. And I think I wish that everyone in the world has the opportunity to think about those things, because it also means that they have enough time and enough space and peace to be able to think about those things. Alison, you say thanks. You say time, I guess, waits for no hippo. You're right, Alison. Oh, now can you see as this hippo is moving, it's kicking up a lot of black mud. So one of the very, very fine clays is called black cotton soil. It's very fine, and it can be very dangerous to drive on when it's wet. It's also an ecologically important soil because those areas are very sensitive. If you drive through and you leave tire marks, they're not going to erode. They stay like that because the particles are so fine. So if you imagine you're a hippo, it's now steamy hot in summer in Africa, and oh, is that a terrapin trying to crawl up? Look at that! Oh! Anyway, your skin is cracking, it's dehydrated, and you get this nice, fine mud to really soothe that skin. Oh, it must feel amazing. Terrapin's gone on a wild ride too. Alison, you're also letting us know it's the season of the white butterflies in Joburg, and you're seeing them here at Kwamaratan as well. Yes, I think you're talking about the African migrants. Let's see if I remember there's another name that is commonly used. Luckily for me, I have my insect book right here from when we were doing wild moments the other day. Now you'll see them all over the place at the moment. I suppose that's, I mean, there's so many things about summer that I absolutely love. Yeah, it is African migrant Catopsilia florella. That's the beautiful kind of whitey touch of green butterfly that we've been seeing all over the place. Unless of course you're talking about a different one, which it could well be. But I was thinking about the African migrant. Oh, everybody, Jan 2 is here. Good afternoon, Jan 2. Pat, you say it's going to be warm in South Florida as well. You're probably going to have a similar festive period as we are. Nice, hot, warm, and humid. Although I always entertained pipe dreams of having a white Christmas. Oh, Alison, you also say that in December you're spending 2 weeks in the Kruger and you're counting down the days. That is very, very exciting. There we go. We're back up at El Doño now. And we're having a look at this foam nest tree frog's nest. Here we go, Bridget McKinney. You were asking about it earlier. Now we can actually have a good look at it. This is very, very nice. We're going to see a lot of them all over the place. This, I mean, for some of you who may have never seen one of these nests before, it's made by what's called a foam nest tree frog or a gray tree frog, but it's made by a frog. And the female actually produces this foam. It's like a frothy substance it's a liquid substance that she froths up with her back legs, and then she deposits her eggs into it. And then the male frogs will come around here while she's doing it and fertilize the eggs. And then at first, though it's a little bit soft and frothy, it tends to harden as it's exposed to the elements. And then the little frogs that are inside, the little tadpoles, they're protected, or the eggs I should say, because once they hatch into tadpoles, they drop straight into the water. But they're protected by this interesting nest in the meantime. Well, they can be found really all over. Most of the descriptions that I've seen of them puts them in southern Africa as opposed to East Africa, where we're seeing this one at Old Donyo. So it's actually making me wonder if there is an East African equivalent. Hey, David in the UK. Haven't heard your name for a while. You say foam nests are normally in trees and drop into the water. Why different at Old Donyo? You are right. They are normally in trees or on branches in a tree hanging over water. Why is this one at the edge here? What's different? It's actually not that unusual. I've seen it a couple times. You'll see them on like right at the edge in the water. And I suppose at the end of the day, it comes down to desperation and availability. So if a frog wants to deposit her eggs, she doesn't have a suitable branch here at Old Donyo. She doesn't know where the closest waterhole is apart from this one. She's invested in this waterhole. Males are already coming along. What will she do? And the best thing to do would be to just produce your eggs. So while it is most effective for them to have their nests, oh, look, there's another one here, over a branch so that tadpoles can fall into the water, it doesn't mean that they won't do it in any other way. Here we can see there's another one here as well. So it's probably not very unusual. And like I said, I've seen it many times as well. Another thing to consider is that there's certain types of species that produce a lot of offspring. We call them R-selected species. They're generally animals that have very high birth rates. They reproduce rapidly. They go through generations rapidly, which means that their lifespan is short. And frogs are a great example of that. In fact, they're like the quintessential R-selected species when we talk about them as an example. So there's R-selected and there's K-selected. The K-selected species, typical example is an elephant. A long-lived, large animal, spends a lot of time with parental investment, and produces few offspring at a time with very large generational gaps between generations. Frogs are on one end of the spectrum, elephants are on the other. So for an animal that produces so many eggs, reproduces often, as much as they can during the wet season, producing one foam nest that's not in the ideal situation is not really a big deal to them. She can come and do this here because water is available, mates are available, and then she may go somewhere else and try again. So for those animals that don't need to invest a whole lot, they can take the chance of just putting their nest down wherever they think is suitable for that moment. So I guess, David, the crux of it is, it doesn't really matter as long as the essential components are there. Oh, we have a little problem here at Old Donyo. There, we've moved now over to Stony Point, where it was absolutely vacant earlier, but now we have a little Dussie looking miserable, I might add. Stitcher, you say you're jealous of that hippo wallowing. It looked so relaxed, and you're amazed how long they can stay at it. What's the longest time observed for a single wallow? I don't think it's the type of thing that people usually time, but I can tell you, having sat at a waterhole for an entire day, I've seen a hippo in the water for the entire day. But that's not unusual for hippos. of course, Stitcher, because we're back at Quarmaritan, looking at the hippo now, because that Dusty was just looking far too miserable, and we're talking about the hippo, so we're back at Quarmaritan. So for a hippo, they are going to stay in the water in the dam for as long as possible, for the whole day, and they'll only really come out if it's really overcast or if the sun has set. So it's not unusual for a hippo to stay in the water wallowing for the whole day. In fact, it's what they normally do. Because hippos only go out to graze and feed in the evenings, not during the day. During the day is when they're relaxing, napping, chilling, maybe defending territory a little bit against other hippos, but they're not out and about and not feeding. The only exception to that is if it is overcast, then you might get them on the banks of rivers and dams. I thought I was hearing some human voices, but now I'm actually not sure, because the bush has so many different sounds in the summer. Okay, no, those are human. Those are definitely human voices. There's times when I'm in the bush trying to sleep in summer, and the sound just gets to me. It just feels like there's just no more silence left in the world. Every space is constantly filled up with some kind of sound. And once you let it get to you, it's really difficult. I don't think in my life I have ever been angry with an owl. I love owls. I have a little owl handbag. I love owls. But my goodness, did I get angry with an owl once. Same thing. Summertime, middle of the night, Scops owl right at my room window. Beautiful sound. Now I pay to have that sound every night. But I suppose after some time of you just needing some silence, the sound of the cicadas and the owls can get to you. Yep, definitely a little jealous of this hippo. Oh, Andy, thank you so much. I suspected so. So you were saying it could be a Peter's foam nest tree frog for Kenya and Tanzania. Yeah, definitely, I think so. Whenever I've looked at foam nest or gray gray foam nest frogs or foam nest tree frogs, goodness, can't speak. It's always described as Southern Africa, but it must be another foam nest frog that is in the same family. Well, I suppose all foam nest frogs are in a similar family. Peter's foam nest tree frog. Stop it, Kirst. Kirst just told me to say foam nest. I can't even say it. Foam nest tree frog 10 times. Can't do it. Oh, nice, Zygote. You say yesterday you saw a Diederik cuckoo at Quarmaritan. Oh, that's lovely. I do love a Diederik. I also love a Classes cuckoo. Classes is probably my favorite um, of the cuckoos, that is. one of my favorite sounds. So I got to say the only owl you don't enjoy is a barn owl. Gosh, I love the sound of all owls. It was just that on that night, the sounds were all just too much. Now imagine being this hippo. Now the ears don't look like much, but they are collecting sound information from the air, from above ground, but also from the water. So they're able to produce amphibious sounds, so sound that can be heard underwater and on land. And for them to be able to produce that, they have to be able to receive it as well. So for me, I imagine that it would be a whole nother level of hearing. Of course, that doesn't mean that they're hearing much more than everybody else. It just means that they're hearing differently. Nice, and now we have a weaver. Which camera are we at, actually? Whenever we are really tight on a specific thing, I can never figure out which camera on. We're on Mabula. Here we go. So apparently there's been quite a lot of bird life with Mabula. There was a woodland kingfisher on the cam just now. There we go. Oh my gosh. Talking about noisy summers, this is the culprit, the woodland kingfisher. It is striking though, isn't it? I particularly like the eye stripe. I'm hoping it will call for us. Zygote, you say the black cuckoo call is nice too. It is. It feels very mournful. The black cuckoo goes, I'm sad. It is very nice though, Zygote. Kaoru, you have an interesting question you'd like to know. Are all frogs tadpoles when they hatch? Interestingly, not. Not all frogs have a tadpole stage. Many have eggs that are deposited straight into the water. Which would be great for this woodland kingfisher. I'm sure it would love a froggy meal. In fact, that's exactly what it's looking like it wants to do at the moment. It's perched for the purpose of hunting. It looked like it was about to snatch up a meal. And we're back at Mabula, at Kwamaratan. Sorry, Kaoru, you had another part of your question. You wanted to know if those foam frogs will be tadpoles first. Yes, so the foam nest frogs, the foam is there to protect the eggs, and then the tadpoles drop into the water. So they do have tadpoles, but not all frog species have a tadpole stage. there are many species, or I should say there are some species that go straight from egg to some form, kind of form of a frog, not exactly a tadpole. Well, I'm really glad that some stuff started to happen on the cameras and we got to spend time doing or getting to know and talking about the littler things, which I always love. And just like that terrapin has fallen off the back of this lazy hippo and into the water, I too will scoot away, enjoy the rest of my tea, and bid you all farewell. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thanks for your questions and your comments, and I'll see you on Thursday.